Hi everyone. If you're following the news, you probably know about what's happened at the Gamestop stock. The stock has rallied more than 300% in the last week itself. In this video, I discuss what led to the rally. In the process, I discuss how does a short squeeze work. And I also discuss my view as an insider because I was part of the now infamous subreddit Wallstreetbets, who planned and executed this short squeeze. So stay tuned. So to understand what's happening at GameStop, we need to understand how a short squeeze works. And to understand short squeeze, in turn we need to understand what short selling is. So in a nutshell, short selling is basically the opposite of a regular person buying a stock and holding on to it in the hope that it will go up. In case of short selling, investor would sell a stock at the current price, hoping that the price would go down in future. Now you might ask, how can somebody sell a stock they do not own? And here's where the banks, the brokerages come into play. So basically, it's done by borrowing of these stocks from the banks, from the brokerages, using something called a margin. A margin is, you can say, a liquidity or credit that an investor has depending on the deposit in the bank, their credibility, etc. etc. Now when short sellers sell a stock, they borrow it from the bank, and in future, when these stock prices go down, they buy these stocks from the market to what's called cover their short positions. In case of GameStop, what happened was particularly unique. The stock of GameStop was shorted 140%, which means that the short sellers had borrowed more shares than they were available in the market. Well, this is something that's going on for a long time. Short selling accounts as much as 20% of total investment in the market. One of the more famous stocks in recent times, Tesla, was heavily shorted. But what's happened differently in case of GameStop is that somebody identified this short position and exploited it. A short squeeze works by making the stocks unavailable for the short sellers to cover their positions. At this point, when a short seller wants to buy back stocks from the market to return the borrowed stocks from the banks, from the brokerages, there is no supply. And so they have to pay a huge amount to buy these stocks back. That's what sets the stock price in a vertical direction. The story goes back as long as January 2020, when GameStop surprised everyone with a 300% surge in revenue from online business. Many saw this as an opportunity to jump on an undervalued stock. One of these people was Ryan Cohen, who's one of the founders of Chewy.com. Apparently, he invested at a price of average $8.63. Yes, that's right. And bought himself 3 seats at the board of directors. He seemed like he truly believed in the online transformation of an otherwise iconic business. This interest further picks up when the legendary Mike Burry, who's portrayed by Christian Bale in The Big Shot, invests into the stock as well. Somehow this news, this enthusiasm makes to the Reddit, and one of the Reddit users named Deep F Value is highly enthusiastic about this. His post history goes back as much as to 1 year back from now, where he's really pushing the stock. He really believes that this could be a unique opportunity for investment. and he invests 50k into the stock. The interest continues to peak as Deep F Value keeps sharing his gains on the subreddit. At some point, people start to discover the short squeeze possibility on this stock and start buying into the stock. What's also discovered in the process is that Citron is one of the major short sellers for this stock. To give a background, Citron is the arch enemy at this subreddit. In the past, Citron has downgraded Tesla, AMD, and Palantir, which seem to be the favorite stocks or meme stocks on this subreddit. No wonder this common hatred for this arch enemy unites everybody. Around January 15, the stock rises as much as 20%. And it's no hidden secret now that we are going to play a short squeeze on the stock. Everybody on the subreddit is buying into the story. The stock doubles between January 11th and January 20th. That's when it starts to capture the attention of a common investor on the stock market. Well, somewhere around January 25th, the stock moves to 150, which is around 5 times of what it was trading around January of 12th. This is the same time around which Elon Musk tweets this in support of the subreddit community on his official Twitter handle. This sends the stock in frenzy, so much so that on the next morning, all the major trading platforms crash. At this point, it's not only GME which is going through the roof, but it's also AMC, it's BlackBerry, it's Bed Bath & Beyond, and it's Nokia. It's all this group of heavily shorted stocks that are being bought in the hope of a short squeeze. On January 28th, hell breaks loose because different trading platforms restrict trading of these stocks. Things really scale up after Robinhood restricts users. People like AOC, Elon Musk, and even Ted Cruz jump on the discussion about how this was restricting the rights of the common man. On the day before this, AMC is up 300%, Bed Bath & Beyond somewhere around 60%, and BlackBerry around 100%. On this day, all of them have a steep decline. Gamestop falls as much as 50%, from the highs of 342 to 190. Many people say that this is the time when many of the short sellers actually covered their position. But to what it's true, we'll see in future. Things get really serious and the Robinhood CEO, Vlad, has to go all over the TV explaining his position. A day after, on 29th, Robinhood finally opens up trading of these stocks, but with a very limited capacity. As of now, you could only buy 1 share of GME and probably 20 shares of AMC. The stock prices keep on rising and they are almost back to the level when they were on a day before. Right now, everyone is just playing a waiting game. However, on the subreddit, things are really escalating. A subreddit which was comprised of 2 million people is now 2.6 million people in a week's time. People are posting from everywhere, from China, from Sweden, from Africa, from various parts of the world, saying they are in it just to screw the big hedge funds. The hedge funds, on the other hand, has suffered a huge setback from covering these short positions at a huge price. Melvin Capital, which was one of the major short sellers on this stock, was bailed out by Citadel with 2.75 billions. Citron Research closed its short selling arm to focus more on long-term investments. This is huge. This is the typical David versus Goliath story, where a bunch of rebels from Wallstreetbets took over these hedge fund managers and beat them at their game.
So as of today, Citron Research will no longer be publishing what can be considered as short selling reports.
What's the future implications of this? As many people have observed, this would kind of lead to an introspection in the market. A general introspection about how the game is rigged towards bigger players. An introspection into Robinhood, who claims to be giving from the rich to the poor but acted in a contradictory fashion. Also, it's going to generate a lot of interest in the stock market as the signups for these trading apps have really gone up. Both Robinhood and Webull were among the top 2 downloaded apps in the App Store. That's crazy. It's also going to course correct a lot of investors who kind of rely on short selling. These investors are going to think twice before they go into short selling a company into the ground. Well, to add to this, I'm not buying into GME anymore. I'm not buying into any of these stocks anymore because I think it has crossed a point of a logical argument. People have just bought into this more and more just to act in spite of the bigger players. People are buying into these stocks just because they all like to hate bigger investors. But there is some truth to how the game is rigged towards biggest players, and we saw that when institutions like CNBC, Wall Street Journal, and Barron's came out in defense of how the market was being manipulated by these smaller players, whereas they never talk about how these bigger hedge fund investors manipulate the market all the time. So this is a great point of reflection, and I think it's going to bring a greater good to everybody. I just hope that this does not lead to panic selling in the market and actually creating a kind of unreasonable dip in the market for companies who are truly valued the money of the stockholders. And I hope it does not affect common people like you and me in terms of losses in the stock market. Well, to keep getting such updates and videos, please subscribe to my channel and like the video. Thank you. And if you have anything more to add to the discussion, please feel free to comment in the video. Till then, keep believing in the future.